I've figured out the wiring for this, so next let's show you how I did it. Now I've shown you one side working, I'll show you how I got to that point from where we are. The Lanchester is equipped with British pre-focus bulbs, and they're not great. They're okay, they do the job, and for their time they're perfectly fine. Amazingly, this car's never been upgraded to H4s or similar, and I'm going to be the one to do that. It's a fairly straightforward job, but not completely straightforward. That side particularly, because that headlight piggybacks off this one, it's a little bit different on the wiring, so yeah. The other problem is the connectors and things that I've got, the wiring on here, it's not the colours I want, but it's the colours I've got, so you'll have to forgive some of the less than professional finish on this. It's more about functionality. It'll be safe, just not beautiful. We are going to be putting the headlights and side lights in the bowl, and this will eventually become the indicator. So I have a little bit of a shuffle on the wiring to do, and then we should be able to get everything together. Right, let's show you what's needed. Luckily for us, this Lanchester has 7-inch headlights as standard. Now I think some of them have a slightly larger headlight. This was pointed out by a couple of people and was something I wasn't sure if it was something I was just imagining. But when you look at the headlight bezel on here, you can see ours has a bit of a step. This is all one piece. It's not like got an adapter ring or that sort of thing in, but on some Lanchesters, even this model, this step isn't here, and instead that ridge there is where the headlight is, so they would be slightly larger than this. Fortunately, because this is the later version, it seems, it's standard 7-inch. And standard 7-inch H4 headlight conversions are plentiful and easy to get hold of, which is exactly what I bought. These have the side light in the headlight bowl. You can get them where they just have a headlight, there's no side light in there, but we specifically wanted this because, obviously, the indicator's going in there. So being able to put the side light in the headlight bowl makes that a lot easier. Nixes the idea that we had of putting the LED dual function bulbs in and should make the wiring a little bit easier. Obviously, standard clip for your H4 bulb. This kit provides bulbs for you, so you get your H4 and you get your side light. But I did have to get one of these separately because you can't use the wiring in the Lanchester as standard because the connectors are different. These are plentiful. I actually struggled to find ones that were decent quality. They all seem to be variations on this theme, so you don't get much choice over the colours. Eventually I'm going to find a better version of this. I'd like something a bit nicer and something where I could pick the colours on the wires, but for now this will be perfectly fine. In addition to the lighting and the wiring, these pieces were missing from the headlight bowl. So the clip that holds the retaining ring in place was gone, as was the little spring. Amazingly, these are still available, brand new. I will pop a link up on the screen for you and in the description. I can't remember off the top of my head where I got them from, so I shall confirm that and then I'll let you know. You can use the car without these in place. The headlight does clip on and it does, it stays put perfectly fine, but these just make sure it stays in place. I imagine if you go over a particularly rough road, it might shake the headlight trim off and then you'd lose a headlight, and that wouldn't be a fun time. I did have a bit of a think about these rear lights. They've stopped working again. I suspect this one is shorting inside because this one piggybacks off it. So at some point I'm going to swap these over and see if that makes a difference, because they've gone back to not working again. The number plate light works, but the rear lights have decided not to, which is annoying. Well, the repair I made on here has failed. I'm not terribly surprised about that. It didn't solder very well. But that's not a problem anymore because we're changing these out. The headlight in here is held in with these spring clips. These are also available brand new, amazingly. These are in reasonable shape, so I shall just be reusing them. To get these spring clips out, you pull the long side down and they just unhook from the ring. And there are 4 of those. And the headlight simply lifts out. You can see on this one that the corrosion has set in behind the silvering, so I had the choice of either replacing these or getting them resilvered. And honestly, resilvering is very expensive. And for the light output gain I'll get, it makes sense just to replace them. It's what you might call a sympathetic upgrade. When you fit the new one, you have the hole at the bottom here, which the clip goes in to hold everything together. That's the bottom. And on these, the side light is at the bottom. So as long as you line those 2 bits up, you should be okay. There were also some little locating tangs, 3 of them, and they lock into a little piece up at the top here. So as long as you've got them, you know, as close to that as you can, you should be okay. Next is installing these springs, and it can be a little tricky. So they are shaped and they have like a little step. The camera's not really picking up how that looks, but you need to get the 2 little sort of leg pieces in the gap here, and then you push the longer portions of the spring down and that locks into place. Sometimes they go very easily and sometimes they fight you. And just make sure they're spaced fairly evenly and you should be okay. That one went in very easily, and that's one headlight together, ready to go on the car once we've done the wiring. Over here, this one is the earth, and that goes to a connector in the bowl here. This one is your dipped beam, and this one is your main beam. So these are your 3 most important ones for your headlights. If it was just that, nice and easy. However, over here in the wheel arch, normally you'd have 1 wire going up to the side light here, which is this red one. I need to feed that up into the headlight, and this green and white one, that will go up here because that's going to become the indicator. So I need to finagle in here. You can just see the post for the headlight there, and I've got to get all these wires through. Sometimes it means trimming back the sheath, the black sheath on the wiring, just so everything fits. But everything does go through. And then we can get the new wiring on. There we go, not too bad. Just remove this one. And you can see this is being quite mangled to make it fit the fixings they had. So I'll have to do a little bit of tweaking with that. The rubber gasket on this side isn't in great shape. The other one looks fairly new. This is another item you can still get brand new, so we'll probably replace that eventually. Before we do the wiring, let's put this clip back in. And these are called spectacle clips. For obvious reasons, they look a bit like spectacles. And they are curved, and you slot them in. And then the little catch, which is chromed, goes in that way round. And you sort of have to squish that on there, and there you go. Oops. And that's now replaced. Pretty easy, that one. Welcome to my very high-tech testing rig. I'm not sure which one of these legs is which function, except for the yellow, which I know is earth from the other side I've already done. So I just need to know which one of these is dipped and which one is main. So I have the earth connected to the positive, as it would be on the car, because this car is positive earth. And then we take one of the wires and put it to the negative post. That's probably main. Yes. You can see the difference in the bulb brightness there. So we know red is main and blue is dipped. There is probably a better way of doing this. I wouldn't know. This is how I'm doing it, because that's the things I have available. Right, as I've said before, I'm not a professional electrician. This isn't the best way to do the job, it's just the way that I'm doing the job, using the materials and tools I have access to. I would have liked these connectors here to be the bullet connectors, but I haven't got the right tool for crimping the bullets themselves that I have, so I'm using spade connectors instead. I can go back and replace these at any point. For the earth point, which is the yellow wire here, I'm using one of these push fit connectors to go into the headlight bowl, and that allows me to run the earth from the headlight and the side light without any problems. So I don't confuse main and dipped, I have a female on one wire and a male on the other. That way I shouldn't be able to muddle those up. Admittedly, the connectors, because they're colour coded for size, that can be a little bit confusing to look at, but I've done my best to match up where I can. In the headlight bowl we have the side light here, main beam and dipped beam. And dipped beam here is black with a white trace rather than red with a black trace, because this wire piggybacks off of this headlight. So now I just have to connect everything and test it. I'm going to connect these bulbs and test before putting the headlight together. That way if I've got something wrong I can fix it without dismantling everything. One other job I need to do is I need to straighten this out and open it up a little bit, because at the moment I do not stand a chance of getting that in there. Don't like doing this because it's copper, so there's always that chance it's gone brittle. Almost. I want a nice snug fit on this. It's just a bit tricky because it's quite deformed. I'll fight with this a little bit more and then I'll bring you back. Sometimes jobs that are pretty easy to do without the camera are quite tricky when the camera's in front of you. I've squashed and shaped it as best I can, and now it's a nice secure earth point. You need to give it a good tug to get that out of there, but putting it in, it's just a nice friction fit, so it's just about right. That means we are ready to test these bulbs and see what happens. Right, let's test these, make sure they work like they should, and you can tell me how it gets on. Well, that's good. That all works. I've got the clip underneath here replaced, which I've just knocked out because, well done me. I'll pop that back in a minute. But yeah, we can get this all reassembled, which I shall do, and that's another thing finished, isn't it? That's another thing off the list, which is good, which is getting smaller. Yeah, good. Now, before I do put everything back together, and so you don't worry, these spade connectors here, I will wrap those with electrical tape. As soon as I've got the tool to put the proper bullet connectors in, all of this will be replaced anyway. So just pretend that I've done that properly, and that will look a lot nicer later. I can't do it today, I don't have the tools, I don't have the materials, so this will just have to do for now. It's not going to burn down or anything, it'll be fine. Right, had a bit of a think about this. I've already tried swapping these units over, that's made no difference. I do have power getting all the way to the units. I've tested the units off the car, I know they work for both functions. I know the brake switch doesn't work, but that shouldn't affect the running light situation, and I don't understand these turning off when the headlights go on. It really only leaves an earth problem. So I took the flat wheel to this part of the bodywork I'm using as an earth point. There is a lot of surface rust on here, but I have an area bigger than my earth point here which is shiny metal, which this is now screwed into. So I've given it the best chance at a decent earth I possibly can. If this doesn't fix it, I don't know what to try next. So let's turn the lights on and see what happens. Right, we have side lights at the front of the car. We have side lights up here, and we have nothing at the bottom. I have no idea why. The bulbs are good. You know, everything's in like it should be. Let's try headlights, see if that makes any difference. Yep, headlights and side lights at the front like they should be. Number plate light still on like it should be, and still nothing from the bottom. I wouldn't expect main beam to make a difference, and it hasn't. Everything's still the same. I think we have to leave this one and just fix everything else we can, and by process of elimination we might find out what's missing. It's very odd. I think we're going to have to go process of elimination on this one. It's very odd that I'm getting power to the back, that I seem to have a good earth as far as I can figure out with the multimeter and visually, that the lights at the front are working. You've seen these lights working on the car. They have actually been working. The light units test fine off the car. But something goes wrong when I connect them up. And I don't get it. They're not complicated. These are very, very simple things. I don't get why they're not working on the car. There's one other thing that I can test, which is a bulb holder with a bulb in it that isn't these light units. So we'll give that a go and see if we get anything. If we do, well, that's even weirder, isn't it? Let's find out. Welcome to another janky test rig. This is the power for the rear lights, and then this is the earth point that I'm using anyway, just to make sure it's a good earth point. Here we have just a regular bulb. It's the same brake light bulb that the car uses on the back of the car. All being well, when I connect these up to the bulb, it should light up. Oh look, on both functions. So the problem's not the wiring, because if the earth point I'm using and the power point that would usually be into the rear light is providing the things it should provide, that tells me the wiring is fine. So the problem must be with these light units. But what's really strange is when I've bench tested these, they work perfectly fine. So what's going wrong between here and here? Something is happening inside these light units which is stopping them working, and I don't really understand that because, well, there's barely anything in them. Let's bench test this again and see what happens. Nothing special here. Connected up the earth to positive, and then we have the negative for power, as you know, usual. And what should happen is I should touch one of these connectors and the light should come on. Oh look! So if this is working fine off the car, the wiring is perfectly fine on the car, why is it when I connect the two things together, these stop working? That doesn't make any sense. Something's going wrong somewhere, and I don't really understand what. Do you know what I haven't done? Let's put the wire in properly rather than just touching the connector and see if that makes a difference. Perhaps it's the mechanism inside the light unit that's causing the issue. Right, let's try again. So even with it connected, it still works. What gives? What's going on with this when it's in the car? Why would it work fine here and not work when it's in the car? That's very odd. I might have found the problem, and it might not be what I thought. Okay, on here, because this little earth connector on the back here is, well, it's got a crack in it, which isn't great, so the fit is sloppy. I don't want to fight with it because I don't want to break it, so I used a tiny bit of tin foil between the connector and the wires, folded the wires back because it's one of those push fit ones, and that has a good connection there. Then I had a look at the earth points. Now when this came to me, there's two that go into one bullet connector, and that is the wiring that runs across the back of the car to the other brake light. Then this one that runs from inside the car, this one had a bullet connector on the end, which didn't make any sense, so I put a ring connector on it. And then this one, which comes up from the chassis, has a bullet connector on. Now, I'm not sure how these three should all go together, but it does look like they all go together, because when I connect those two, the rear light comes on, like it should. So I think what I need to do is connect these two together. But then, what's this one for? I mean, obviously it's an earth point, but should I put a double connector in here and connect all of them together? I genuinely don't know at this point, but that is the problem. Joining that earth point there together makes the rear lights work. But it does nothing on that one, and it does nothing on that one. And you can put that there, put that there, put that there, nothing happens. So I don't know. I really don't know. This is very frustrating because, well, lack of instructions really. I'll figure out how to join these together, and I think I've got to the bottom of the lights not working. It gets better, and I don't mean that sarcastically for once. I have the headlights on, and the rear lights stay on when the headlights are on now. This one here is for the number plate light, so that needs hooking up there. If you're wondering why the lights keep flickering, it's because this is just very sketchy. So I know I need to connect those to each other, and I need to connect that to the car. Why it has a bullet connector on, I couldn't say. I don't know on that, but it does. So, yeah, I'll figure that out. And we'll get this all hooked up, and then hopefully all the lights that the car had from the factory are working. Let's do a test run and find out whether or not I actually have got this right. I really hope I have. Good, that's side lights. Hooray, they stayed on with the headlights for the first time ever. I think though, I've got this one wired up backwards because that one looks very bright. So I think I've got the brake and the running light swapped around. So I'm just going to fix that. This job just keeps on giving. I don't know how or why I didn't put any force into it. I've done these a dozen times and it's just sheared off. At least it's left me a stub so I can hopefully get that out, but I'll do that today. The reason I was doing that is I do have a replacement lens for the one I broke, so I thought I'd put the brake lights on so you can see, but yeah, maybe not. Let's just run through and you can see all of this working properly. Side lights. And everything's on as it should be, which is good. Do you know what? Let's see if I can just hang this one on for this. Just for the purposes of testing, I've just screwed that one on with the top screw and put some soft things underneath it just in case. I don't want to break another lens. But let's see how everything works. Now remember before, when we put the side lights on, the rear lights at the bottom weren't coming on and the number plate light at the top was. And then, previously, when we put the side lights on, the brake lights were coming on but then turning off with the headlights. Hopefully that's now resolved. Also bear in mind, this lens, which the car came to us with, is a darker glass than this lens, so this light might appear a little bit brighter on camera, I'm not sure. That's our side lights. Everything is on as it should be, which is great. Obviously the boot lid would normally be shut, so you wouldn't normally see the light like that. I've just got it open so it's a bit easier to show it on and working. Headlights next. Joy of joys, they stay on when the headlights come on, which is what should happen. That's possibly that problem now fixed, which is great. Let's just check they don't go out when I put the main beam on. Super! All systems as they should be for the first time since we've got the car. That's another job off the list. That makes me happy. The only other lights to deal with now are going to be the semaphores, which is a job for another day. That's mostly just connecting some things up though. I think that one should go okay. A small victory at least. Vice grips to the rescue. The stud came out with no trouble at all. The only issue I had was gripping hold of the thread. I think I've got a spare one of these, so if I have, I'll pop that in. had a rummage. I found a bolt that fits. It's obviously not the right kind. I don't have any of these spare, so I'll have to order some. Again, they're still readily available. So, yeah. Still, it's on, it's safe. When it's screwed to the car, I can't really break it. And yeah, it's back to the original matching types. And it doesn't matter that these don't have reflectors in them, because of course this car has some little aftermarket ones on the boot lid. So it's probably back to how it was when it was new, as far as equipment's concerned there.